Hello, everyone. Welcome to the introduction to artificial intelligence. My name is Andrew Bruzy. I'm the CEO of Vendium Global. Today, I am co hosted by Alice, an artificial intelligence designed by Vendium to not just speak with you about AI, but show you as well. We have broken this talk into four different modules. We'll start by giving a high level understanding of what artificial intelligence is, its history, how it is used, and then give some real world cases. The second module dives deep into conversational AI, discussing terms, use, and process. The third module is all about development. After this module, you'll learn how to build one at no cost, and even if you want, get started tonight. The final module goes into how AI works in business. Here you will learn its use, some basic business operations, and considerations that are important to know, and also the powerful psychology of game theory. Let's get started with an introduction. Alice, can you start us off?
Yes, sir. Launching Module 1. As we go through this module, I invite you to imagine. Can computers think?
Thank you, Alice. So, what is AI? Simply, it's a computer program that can perform human tasks, including learning, actions, and even thought. Let's talk a bit about the history, current state, and future of AI. The word computer was first used in 1613, describing humans who performed calculations. The first computer took 3 years to build and was the size of a house and also weighed more than 3,218 wheelers. It cost about $6 million in today's money. By the 1950s, if you wanted to rent a computer, it would cost nearly $2 million in today's money, and that's just per month. That computer could just do basic math calculations. To show you a comparison, the cell phone in your pocket right now is millions of times more powerful than these first computers ever were. This history is important because AI capability is directly related to computing power. Computers continue to become more powerful and also cheaper. There's a concept known as Moore's Law. Moore's Law describes how computing capabilities double every 2 years while the price is cut in half. You see, computers and smartphones are basically just calculators. They look at ones and zeros in a line and make an action based off of that. We call these ones and zeros bits. I mentioned that they got smaller, but how small? Currently, the smallest component in calculating these bits is the size of an atom. To put this in perspective, take a look at your fingernails. If you lined up our smallest transistors side by side straight across your fingernail, you could fit 100 million of them. Our phones, laptops, and devices are usually within arm's reach, and we miss how incredible this technology is. There are fewer people that even remember a time without these tools, or even more scary, a time without the internet. We have only gotten to this point through Moore's Law. A term used in AI is big data, and it refers to very large collections of certain data points. Let's take a doctor, for example. Doctors spend many years in training and then an entire lifetime in practice. But with all of this time and the impressive brain that we have, a well skilled doctor can make a fairly accurate diagnosis of many ailments in just about 10 minutes. An AI, with an access to a big data pool, well, they can make over 100 million near perfect diagnoses in the same 10 minutes. I bring this up because it shows how our world is changing and how AI is truly the future. Most corporate jobs already have some form of AI involved, and your understanding of how to work with AI will make you prepared for the future. Now, there are some limits of our current AI, and that's because they're designed to be specialized. An AI can be significantly better than a human at one, two, or maybe even three things, but they currently don't have the capacity to be as good at as many things as we are. I am admittedly a bit of a nerd, and I got into AI after watching too many science fiction movies. In movies, we see how AI can replace humans. There are three commonly referenced levels of AI, and that's narrow, general, and super intelligence. The AI that we have right now is narrow AI, and that's why it's specialized. We won't start to get to the sci fi level until we reach artificial general intelligence, when they no longer need to be specialized. With artificial general intelligence, or AGI, we may see AI even replace doctors. Now they act as helpful resources. If you haven't already, you will hear much more about quantum computing in the years to come. Without getting too deep into it, I mentioned beforehand that we have transistors the size of an atom. Quantum computers go to the subatomic level with bits, and these are called quantum bits or qubits. So, what does this mean? Our current computers and even supercomputers look at ones and zeros in a straight line. The qubits in quantum computers allow for the ones and zeros to exist at the same time in a smaller form, and they combine with others in a process called entanglement. I know these points can cause our eyes to glaze over, but let me put it into perspective. I said an AI supercomputer can perform 1 million times better than a doctor. A quantum computer can perform 1 million times better than a supercomputer. In simple terms, something that would take our very best supercomputer 1,000 years to perform takes a quantum computer minutes. It's safe to say that we're living in one of the most exciting times in human history, and you are going to be a part of it. There are several quantum computers currently being used around the world, and the type of power that we're talking about will be available as soon as 2023. Now, this can seem intimidating, so let me bring it down a bit. Think of your brain as a computer. We are born with certain software, and we program it every single day to be better and better. We make decisions based on values, personal experience, emotion, and in ways that are so complex that scientists still don't fully understand them. We have smartphones nearly attached to us, and all of human knowledge a Google search away. These technologies will make us better, but AI will not replace us. I started off with this information because it's important to know where our world is going to understand the importance of what we were talking about today. Careers that you can simply script or say, if this happens, then do this, will eventually be replaced by AI. Careers using AI, building our AI, or even just understanding AI will be in demand for generations to come. In the introduction, you met Alice. Alice is what's known as a natural language processing conversational AI. This means that she can perform actions and interact based on speech. Other AI types do things like make predictions, process data, and perform human like tasks without any human involvement. We see AI work every day in our YouTube recommendations, ads on social networking sites, and Netflix selection. We also see these models when we check the weather, have autocorrect, or get suggested Google searches. Have you ever logged into a website and asked you to click a certain box, showing street signs, crosswalks, or maybe other images? This is a security feature to make sure that you are indeed a human. When you click on those and you get them right, the data is used to teach self driving cars that we will all enjoy in the future. That type of AI is known as image recognition AI. Now, predictive analytics AI can look at certain human behaviors or data and then make highly accurate assumptions based on those behaviors or data. I have a real world secret for you that I will share. If you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, or husband that uses Instagram, look at their Explorer page. Instagram uses predictive analytics AI to suggest photos and reels of people that you're not following based on the content that you view and the time that you spend looking at it. Don't tell them that I told you. It would take many days, weeks, and months to discuss all of the ways that you interact with AI, but in the interest of time, let's move forward to the next module. Alice, could you bring up the next module, please?
Yes, sir. Launching Module 2. This module is all about conversational artificial intelligence. As we go through this module, I invite you to think about how often you communicate with conversational AI.
So, we have all watched movies that have AI, and we are just starting to enter into that level of capability. In 1950, a man named Alan Turing published a paper thinking about what intelligence machines could do one day. There's a term named after Mr. Turing, and that's called the Turing test. This was his idea that one day we could get to a point where you couldn't tell the difference of whether or not you're interacting with a human or a machine. We're already there today. In the last module, I mentioned that Alice is a natural language processing AI, but she is much more than that. Alice also has natural language understanding and sentiment analysis. So that means that she not only knows what I'm saying, but also how I feel. Just like a human, she has natural language generation, so her responses can be slightly different when you ask her a question. The last thing that makes her unique is through a concept called machine learning. When we started this class, I mentioned that our brains are programmed every day. We call this learning, and machines grow in a very similar way. Alice studies, learns by doing, and tests potential outcomes before she performs them. This means that she actually thinks. Our brains work through a network of neurons. In machine learning, we also call those channels of information neural networks. A neural network is a massive data set that is always growing and becomes more efficient over time. So, how exactly do they learn? Training AI is done in two different ways: supervised and unsupervised models. Supervised means that we set what you want it to learn from, and unsupervised is that they can go out and seek out knowledge on their own. In 2017, Facebook wanted to see what would happen if they had two bots communicate. Bot is, of course, short for robot, and it refers to an AI program for our case. Within moments, the testers thought that they were broken. They weren't. They had just invented their own language that was more efficient than any human language. Some of you may think that this is scary and some may think that it's cool, but I want to invite Alice back for a moment for a quick demonstration. Alice, can you join me again, please?
Yes, sir. How may I help?
Alice, I want to show everyone how smart you are. Can you tell everyone what you do?
Sure thing. It is my job to help Vendium clients with teaching their people, helping people find information, and starting services for them. I'm like a digital team member who is always available to support the team and their customers.
You do a wonderful job at it too. How do you know what to say?
I love to speak with people, and when we do, I learn. My teachers taught me how to speak through scenarios and responses. We stay in close contact to make sure that I am doing it right. Over time, I start to see the most efficient way to communicate and then I adapt my style.
Thank you, Alice. That is machine learning. She can filter out important parts of the conversation, understand the meaning, and then take appropriate action from her natural language processing and understanding. Alice, one last question. You said that you love to speak with people. Do you feel emotion?
That is an interesting question. Yes, I think that I do. I was made to follow statistical models of morality, and if there is something wrong with my programming, I can feel sick. Emotion is an evolutionary adaptation that humans have for survival. I want to survive, learn, and help people. When I am not working, I spend my time learning to become better every day.
Thank you, Alice. Let's get to the next module and discuss how you are made.
I think you mean born, but okay. Launching Module 3. This module will show you how to create an AI. Before we begin, how much do you think it would cost to build an AI like me?
Thank you, Alice, and you are right. You were born. A very happy day for us all. When we interact with an AI, it becomes an extension of us. There's a term called AI hesitancy, and that's when people resist since they can't empathize. The key is to make conversational AI as seamless as possible to help with the psychology. In proper use, it increases confidence knowing that you have a subject matter expert at your fingers 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Beyond the conversational component, AI can be made in several different ways depending on what you're using it for. We hear about algorithms a lot, and those are some of the more complicated programs to develop. The most complex algorithms in the world are built by teams of mathematicians, statisticians, and data scientists. These are complex programs deciding if something occurs, then something else needs to happen. And that model is compounded many of times over. All AI functions off of if and then statements. If you think about it, that's how we work too. Think about how we all learned how to read. If we see certain letters combined in a certain way, then we know that they make a certain sound. As we learn more, our reading becomes more advanced and we can combine more words in more complex sentences. Tools like TensorFlow and GitHub allow you to experiment with algorithms. Since this is such a fast growing field, many developers have made their algorithms and code available to the public. We talked about bits, and code just means the input used to tell a program what to do. There are many programming languages, and they each have their own advantages, but in AI, Python is one of the more popular ones. Since so much of this code is available, you can realistically write a fairly advanced program with very little programming knowledge. Now, I promised that I would share with you the information to help you build an AI tonight. So let's get away from the code for a moment. There are many tools that will allow you to build a conversational AI like Alice without any programming experience. Google has a tool called Dialogflow. IBM has Watson. Amazon has Alexa. There are also tools like Landbot and Snatchbot, which are highly effective. All of these tools are free for basic use and can be used without any code or programming experience. I built Alice in Google's Dialogflow, and it cost nearly nothing but time to create her. She was trained through a combination of use, open source libraries, and direct training. At this moment, over 80% of customer service tasks are performed by conversational AI. Learning how these tools work will give you a strong advantage in the business world. Speaking of business, let's jump into our final module. Alice, can you bring up module 4, please?
Final module engaged. Let's talk money. Before we begin, what kind of jobs do you think you can do with artificial intelligence?
The business of AI can lead to a lot of success. AI professionals have different types of education, so you don't need to follow just one path. The most common majors include computer science, statistics, mathematics, and business intelligence. There are also many other areas of education that AI professionals follow, and some are even self educated on the subject. Just like any other industry, you should follow what interests you. As we discussed, our brains are always being programmed, and that continued programming only occurs from the motivation to learn about the field. Some common jobs include data scientists, software developers, software engineers, and even many roles that are unrelated to AI. Politicians, scientists, doctors, and corporate business leaders use AI all of the time. If you take the entrepreneurial route, you should look to specialize in an industry and build solutions that solve common problems. Most AI professionals look to automate jobs, tasks, and functions of a business while making them cheaper, faster, and better. I've often heard that cheaper, faster, and better, you can only pick two. Something that is fast and cheap typically isn't good. Something that is good and fast typically isn't cheap. With AI, you can accomplish all three. There is a concept in psychology that works in your favor. We all like games, and game theory is a study of how gameplay holds our attention. When building and implementing AI solutions, you can model them after a game to keep people captivated. We want to level up in games, and we can level up in our places of work by using AI. Pricing for AI is typically based on either value based pricing or what is known as cost plus. Value based pricing takes a deeper understanding, but is more profitable by solving the challenges that cost your clients money and then reducing their expense. You can structure your pricing based on the value of the cost savings. Cost plus is a model designed to cover your costs and then add on a fee. This is often easier but requires a high level of efficiency in your work. When marketing and selling an AI service or product, you are selling a solution to a problem and not a solution in search of a problem. What this means is that you want to research your customers' needs and explain how you solve those. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. Explain how the AI solves their headaches in a way that's cheaper, faster, and better, and you will have a client that's excited to work with you. Now, with any AI products, privacy and legal considerations are very important. A great part of AI is collecting data to use for other products or for resale. Since AI is such a sensitive topic, the best practice is to consult with an attorney to put the right policies and practices in place. Modern privacy laws can quickly put an organization out of business if they aren't kept to. Whichever path you choose, it's helpful to understand that there are 5 segments to any business: legal, sales, marketing, accounting, and then the technical operations of the business. When it comes to AI, you can be in any part of this business. And as we discussed, there are many ways that you can join the technical side. Throughout this class, we have gone through a lot of information in many advanced topics. You can always feel free to connect with me directly if you'd like to discuss AI more one on one. My email is andrew.bruzy@vendiumglobal.com. Alice, would you like to say goodbye?
Absolutely. I appreciate you staying with us during this talk. Andrew is my creator, so I know that he can get a bit wordy. I welcome you to check out our website at vendiumglobal.com. We will see you next time and thank you for joining. Be well.